Hey guys, Preston here, and welcome back to another video. Today is the first of this series. I don't know why I waited till the middle of the year, slightly past the middle of the year, but from now on, after every Steelers game, I'm going to be doing a video breaking down the game that occurred. Might preview some games too, but for now, it's just kind of a recap situation. So, yesterday, this is filmed on Monday, the Steelers beat the Bengals 16-10. I'm basically break down our offense, our defense, special teams, and give some players of the game and some dishonorable mentions of the game too. So just the game itself as a whole, it was disappointing to say the least. I thought they'd come out pretty motivated after the way they played the Browns last week. Horrible game last week, and they had extra time off due to that game being on Thursday, so I thought they'd come in more prepared, more ready. Obviously injuries did have a factor in this game. Missing Juju and James Conner and Pouncey definitely hurt this team. It probably would have been a little less close if they were there, but obviously they weren't. The defense as a whole did pretty well, I'd say. Minus they had one bad drive where they gave up two passes in a row, and the Bengals scored right at the end of the halftime. But after that, they didn't. I don't think they only got a field goal after that. Holding a team to 10 points is good. The problem is just your offense, it's struggle city to even get to 16 points, which is what they had. So defense did their part again, minus that one part. A lot of penalties as a whole still. I really think they got to shore that up. It's becoming kind of ridiculous now. I will say these refs kind of annoyed me, but still there was a lot of penalties that they need to clean up, which has been happening all the time, especially on special teams, which has really been hurting us. Yeah, so I'm going to break it down. I'm going to go offense, defense, then special teams, I guess. So let's just start with the offense as a whole. If you see me look away, it's because I got stats up in two different places, so I kind of need to, because I don't have all the numbers in my head. I ain't prepared like that. But anyways, if we're just going based off the pass yards and rush yards, we had 179 passing yards and 160 rush yards, which 179 passing yards in the modern-day NFL is super low. But, based off what we were working with and who we had at quarterback, it kind of makes sense, right? Running was actually one of the better games we've had in a long time, 160 rush yards. I'm surprised but not super surprised because the last time we had a good rush game, we've had our best rush games against the bad defenses. Like Miami, our running game was good. Against the Bengals, the first time our running game looked good. So this time, same deal. No Connor this time, though, which, it showed. Benny Snell has potential. I'm going to be honest. Benny Snell, fourth-round pick out of Kentucky, the running back, has potential. He missed the last, 3 weeks with a knee. He had to get his knee scoped or something, some sort of surgery on the knee, and he came out just right out the gate. He would have been a 100-yard rusher if we didn't kneel the clock out at the end and just let him run for 2 more yards. He would have hit 100. He ended the game with 98 yards on, if I can get the stat, sorry. So yeah, I'll look up a lot. He had 21 carries for 98 yards. So I don't think he had the best yards per carry, but he did pretty well. He averaged 4.7, which is pretty good. I think that's higher than anything Connor's averaged. I will say I was hesitant. I wasn't the biggest fan of the 2 practice squad signings they did. They signed, it's Kareth White, like junior or the third, sorry. I'm going to say Kareth White from Chicago off their practice squad to our active roster, and they signed Deon Cain, the wide receiver from the Colts practice squad, to our roster. Both of them actually had a fairly good showing. I don't know why they only gave White 6 carries, considering he had 43 yards off those 6 carries, 7.2 yards per carry. Granted, that first one was a 20-yard rush, and that's a great first rush in the NFL. But I will say, I am actually impressed with how those guys played. As pretty underrated signs there from the Steelers. I guess I shouldn't doubt their scouting. I do doubt their scouting talent sometimes, but with this, they got it right. I think White, his first game, already had more yards than Tony Brooks-James had at all. He was awful for us, if we're being honest, with running the ball. He barely got past the line of scrimmage. Snell was hit and miss because he had some good runs, and he also got hit at the line a lot. But to be fair, our offensive line, considering who they were playing, this is one of their worst games they've had. I know Pouncey's gone, but the snaps were better because Pouncey was gone, but the protection wasn't. So maybe I've been underrating Pouncey a little bit because I've been kind of mad at the way Marquise Pouncey's been playing with, the Chargers game and the Rams game with some of these snaps that were just horrible. The only touchdown the Rams got all game was because Marquise Pouncey had the worst snap ever and gave it to the Rams for a touchdown, if you remember a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, but he does protect better. I think Finney's a good player, but he kind of got manhandled today. To be fair, Alejandro Villanueva also got manhandled. It's just a bad showing from our offensive line. I can't remember how many times. I don't have the stat pulled up, but our quarterbacks, both of them that played, which I'll get to later, both of them were sacked at least once. The line, there's a lot of pressure in both guys' faces this whole game. As pass protection was the one thing this line has been good at all year. Today they were better at run protecting for some reason, and the quarterback got hit a lot. Wasn't good. And as speaking of the quarterbacks, let's go there. Neither of them had a great game. All right, let's just be honest. But Rudolph, it was time. It kind of sucks because I thought he had potential. He was looking good in the Ravens game before he got concussed. And then he just kind of really hasn't been the same since. His first game back, he had a horrible first half, got a little better. It's against the Dolphins. And we were kept waiting for him to pick it up a bit. But he hasn't progressed much, even with all the first-team reps. He's started multiple games now. He should be a bit better than this. His last 2 games have been atrocious. 5 picks in the last 2 games? That Browns game, he doubled his interception total. Because going into that game, he looked all right. It was like, I think it was 11 touchdowns, 4 picks. But now, factor in the Browns game and this game, he's 11 touchdowns to 9 picks. It's working worse and worse. He threw no touchdowns and 1 pick this game. There was 3 sacks total this game. So he got sacked once. He had pressure in his face the whole time, but he was 8 of 16 for 85 yards, and he only averaged 5.3 yards a catch. It was bad. All right, I like Rudolph. I wanted him to work out, but honestly, if we're competing for a playoff spot because it's what we're playing for now. We're playing for pride. We gave up that first-round pick. There's no point in losing, right? Win as much as we can. Just make the playoffs. Get these young guys some development. Make everyone feel good on the team. And Rudolph is done more to hurt us than help us. A lot of bad turnovers, costly turnovers, like today, his 1 interception, which granted he didn't throw 4, but he didn't play the whole game, but his 1 interception was in the red zone when we could have put points on the board. He turned the ball over. Hodges may not be great, but I do think he'll turn the ball over less than Mason Rudolph did, if we're being completely honest. His stat line was 5 for 11, 118 yards, 10.7 average, and 1 touchdown. He was sacked twice. So the line did no one any favors, and these receivers, you're obviously missing your best one, but you got Deontay Johnson back. But as a whole, if I told you earlier the passing yards were abysmal, it was 179. It was not a good passing game. Both offenses struggled, both teams. But as to be expected with the Bengals, and I guess it's to be expected with us now, we're basically the AFC Bears. Horrible offense, good defense gets us by. Except I think we might be a little better than Chicago, if we're being honest. But Hodges, I think he'll get better. Both QBRs were awful. Rudolph's was 17.4, but Hodges was 26.5, so that's a plus. He only threw 11 balls, so hopefully Tomlin at the end of the game said he wasn't going to say who's starting next week, but hopefully Hodges does, and we can get him first-team reps again. He's had some experience. He played the last quarter of the Ravens game, looked pretty good, looked decent against the Chargers. There was a lot of thinking and ducking there. But now, if we can get him back in a pattern, get him some first-team reps, I think he'll do pretty good. Neither of these guys are the future now. I think it's time we realize that. There was a lot of hope with Mason Rudolph when we drafted him. I guess we should be worried about scouting quarterbacks from now on because our GM and the owner and all that, they were going on and on about how we had a first-round grade on Mason Rudolph. And if we did, that's rough because he's not playing. He's playing like a third-round quarterback. He is. He's playing like where he was drafted, and it makes sense. I think he'll be a serviceable backup his career, but he's not going to start in the NFL more than likely. And it sucks, but at the end of the day, it's all right. You took a shot on a third-round pick. It didn't work out. That happens. That happens all the time. So next year is the move. Next year is when you draft a quarterback because this year you don't have a first-round pick to begin with. So there's no guarantee you get the guy you want. And next year, there's good quarterbacks coming out. You'll have your first-round pick, and you'll have Ben next year, so it won't even matter. You can draft a guy to develop behind him. So if that's what I was doing, that's what I would do, honestly. But yeah, I'd give Hodges the start next week. 115 passer rating, I believe. He had a good game. He had a decent game. But based off, like I said, they were both working with bad options. No number 1 wide receiver, no starting center, no starting running back. But Hodges did make it look better than Rudolph did. And back to the run game, like I said, they all did pretty good. Edmonds and Samuels were pretty pedestrian, 2 for 7 and 2 for 6 respectively. Granted, they did not get handed the ball a lot. They really leaned on Benny Snell, which is kind of proven that Snell is the number 2 running back when he is healthy. Samuels has kind of lost that spot based off his running ability. He's not. With the offensive line we have now, we really need a power back who can at least try to break through the line. Samuels is more of an outside guy, and we don't have the protection for that. He's still valuable. He can be utilized in a lot of different places, which I hope they can, work with him a bit. I'm not real confident in our offensive coordinator, to say the least. I still want him fired. Fichtner needs to go. Hope we all realize that by now. Just some of the play calling has been abysmal, which hasn't helped anyone, especially these young QBs. All the halfback draws in second and long that go for a yard. There's not a lot. None of these guys are getting put in good positions. Heck, I think almost every time Hodges threw, the 11 times they were all third and longs because he refused to throw the ball before that. It was not a pretty game, but they got the win. We're in a wild card spot again. It's beautiful. So now let's talk about the best receiver we had. I already talked about Deion Kane. He only had one catch, but it was a 35-yarder, so he's already better than Johnny Holton. He has the same amount of catches as Holton, but for more yards. So Holton did not. I don't know if he saw the field today. He definitely didn't get a target today, so that's a plus when you don't have him on the field. Samuels, like I said, he's pretty valuable in the receiving game. He's still 3 for 26. The check down machine, we might need him, especially with Hodges in. Washington had another good game, I would say. Only 3 catches. No one had more than 3 receptions, but he had 3 receptions for 98 yards and a touchdown. Only touchdown on the game. So if you're going offensive players of the game, it's got to be Washington and Benny Snell. They both had the same amount of yards. Snell did more work, really helped the team. Washington got the only score of the game. Did a decent job of stepping up for all the injuries around him. I don't know if it's going to help him with the conversation of fighting for that number 2 spot. Because Sam Johnson, granted, it's Deontay's first game back, but he was only 3 for 29. So, like I said, we'll get Juju back. We should have Juju back for next week against the Browns, and Hodges should be more used to everyone. So hopefully some of these guys can get their numbers back up. Our tight ends are super pedestrian, but I think that's just a product of our offensive coordinator's system. The only pass the tight end got was McDonald getting a screen with no one blocking for him. So, yeah, this Fichtner does not know how to utilize tight ends. I mean, honestly, with a young QB, you really think you'd get them involved more because tight ends have always been kind of a safety blanket. Look back at Ben with Heath Miller. His go-to guy is his reliable target, I mean, I don't think Rudolph or the Duck has found their safety net yet, and that kind of hurts too. As a young guy, you want one of those. Defensive wise, we had 2 turnovers again, which was nice. It was super needed, both clutch. First was Devin Bush, who blew his coverage, which I was infuriated at first, but then he made it. He fought his way back, got to him and punched the ball out. And of course, Minka Fitzpatrick, the ball hawk, was there to snag the ball right before it went out of bounds and returned it 30 yards. Put us in decent field position. That was huge because the Bengals were driving that drive, and like I said, he got the receiver before he fumbled was at like R5. They were in the red zone when Devin Bush punched it out. Devin Bush has been a forced fumble machine. He's been a turnover freak. He's been seeing the field less, which I really hope they stop doing that because Mark Barron has been abysmal. I don't care that he's a vet. Maybe he knows the schemes better or something, but he's been abysmal. He had a play this game where he had a holding and a pass interference called on him on the same play. How he's such a liability in pass coverage. Granted, Bush isn't much better. He's faster, he's younger, and he's making more plays. Really, you need to get Bush to reps, especially this season. We already know it's kind of a lost season. Even if we make the playoffs, we're more than likely going to lose first round. So why not give the guy you traded up for and is young and will be the future of our team more reps than the guy like Mark Barron, who honestly will be here for a year or two, if we're being honest. He's not much better than John Bostic was. And I wish we would have had LJ Fort over him. Honestly, we should have kept Fort and not signed Barron and let Bostic walk. But hindsight is 20/20, right? Defensive-wise, we had 4 sacks on the game, which I kind of expected. The Bengals had 1. They got 1 offensive lineman return, which helped them a lot. But TJ Watt continues his streak of getting a sack. It's like the last 8 games or so. Cam Hayward has been really stepping it up this year. He's had a great year. He's severely underrated. He's always been underrated by everyone. I will say he's finally getting some respect. I believe he's leading all defensive tackles in Pro Bowl votes. But he got a sack and 1.5 tackles for a loss. Mark Barron got the 1 sack that to me was a safety. Is pretty close. It was still a good sack. He was completely unblocked. He did what he was supposed to. TJ Watt got a sack, like I said, and Bud Dupree had the clutch sack yet again. Bud has really had a good year, which it's great that he's having a good year for us, but it sucks that he waited till his final year of his contract to ball out. It seems like that happens too much, doesn't it? So now we're in a dilemma of, Is he going to be priced out of? Are we not going to be able to afford him, or are we going to have to pay him a lot, even though he's only had 1 year of production, or is he just going to walk? It's a rough thing. We got 3 defenders who all are due for contracts at the end of the year, so we'll have to see who they go with: Hilton, Dupree, or Hargrave. I think out of the 3, I'd personally go with Bud Dupree. I like Mike Hilton, right, but he can't catch, and sometimes, if we're being honest, he's a liability in coverage. We don't really need him to do the key cornerback blitzes anymore, because our guys up front are actually getting to the quarterback. We have a really good pass rush. It's cool to have him, but if he gets, depending on how much the market is for him, we really shouldn't. Cam Sutton is way better in coverage and plays the same slot corner position, so it'll be interesting to see what we do there. So that was the sacks. Bud got the forced fumble at the end of the Bengals last drive that sealed the game for us, which is beautiful. I think he also got a strip sack. It might have been against Cincinnati also, or the Dolphins. Another one of those that really helped us out. Everyone else, none of the other pass rushers, a lot of pedestrians. Just tackles. Devin Bush was kind of quiet all game except for the 1 tackle. Terrell Edmonds, he gets tackles, but he also gets burned in coverage too much. He's like Mark Barron. He's a safety that literally never looks back at the ball when he's pass protecting. The one-hand catch that was made on him was a good catch, but if we're being honest, he just ran looking at the wide receiver with his hands up. Edmonds hoping to play would happen, and that's what tends to happen with him. He's way more of a box guy, and we got him playing deeper. I don't know if he needs replaced, but I do think we should use a draft pick on a strong safety this year. Not just because Edmonds hasn't been playing great, but also because Sean Davis is a free agent, and depth at that position will be key for us, as it is for most teams. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Edmonds has not been performing the way I'd want him to for a first-round pick, his second year in the league. He's supposed to develop, and he's kind of been disappointing, if we're being honest. Defensive-wise, the corners did okay. Nelson was quiet again, which is always good, which means he's doing his job. Hilton and Hayden both got burnt a couple times. Hayden looked really rough to start the game, but then he locked down at the end. It just sucks that the dude cannot catch. Him and Hilton, we had a grand total of 8 pass defenses this game, 3 from Hayden and 3 from Hilton, and none of them turned into picks, which is a problem. We don't want our corners having Ike Taylor hands, man. We're supposed to be, we're close to the top in the league in turnovers, and not getting a single pick this game hurt. It really could have helped us, especially offensively. We need turnovers. This offense needs turnovers, and dropping that many picks, leaving that many picks on the field does hurt. We won, but if we lost, it'd be something to look at, is the fact that Joe Hayden could not catch an interception to save his life, man. 3 of them dropped. Hilton, same thing. It wasn't that one of the drives towards the end of the game, Joe Hayden literally dropped 2 picks the same drive, which hurts, man. Granted, it's not a catch for the offense, so you still got to give credit there. They did pretty good. The secondary is definitely way improved than it was last year, but still. Apparently, what else is there? Defensively, that's pretty much it, I guess. They did their job. They held a team to only 10 points. Granted, a bad team, but they still did what they were supposed to and held a team to 10 points. So overall, I'd give defense did a real good job. I guess, my defensive player of the game would have to be, I'd go with Bud, I guess, just because that strip sack was huge. What Devin Bush did was huge too, so put him in there. But like I said, no one really had like a stellar game. No multi-sack games, no picks. They just all did their job as a unit, it's good to see. You'd wish there'd be some standout performances every now and then, but it's good to see they all played well. And you gotta take what you can get. Hayward was around the quarterback a lot, to be fair. He had 4 QB hits and 1 sack. Hayward's been beasting it for us. The return game was decent. Deontay Johnson can actually move when he gets the return, so he actually was able to gain at least a yard or 2. He averaged 5.3 yards on a return from punt returns, which is it's better than Switzer, right? Which isn't hard, but it's better than Switzer, and he didn't fumble, so that's a plus. We are still worried about his ball control when he's taking the punt returns. Kareth White only did 1 kick return, but it's for 15 yards, so he's a good asset in that area too. That's partly why we signed him. Boswell, special teams again. Boswell played lights out, which he has been all year. It's great to have him back to form. He did hurt us a couple times last year. We probably could have been a playoff team, if we're being honest, if he didn't miss some kicks last year. And this year he's back to form. He's only missed 1 all year, and it's like a 50-something yarder. And he made all 3 he was 3 for 3 this game, which is a big part in us winning this game. He scored the majority of our points. Yeah, he scored. If you count the extra point, he scored 10 of our 16 points. He was our offense. And Jordan Berry's had a good year too this year. He had 3 punts in the 20-yard line this time. Booted some balls, including a 60-yarder. He's good now too. Our special teams has stepped up this year, which is what we needed considering the way this offense has been. So as a whole, it's a good team win. It's frustrating at the beginning because nothing really got going until after halftime. Hodges starting in place of Rudolph gave us a spark we need. I do think he should stay the starter for next week. Let me know what you guys thought of the game. Who are your players of the game? And what do you think is going to happen next week? So I thought we'd come out motivated this week, but maybe we're just looking at the Browns game, which you shouldn't do, but now the Browns game is coming up. So looking at it, let's see what they do, because I'm sure most of this roster's fired up to play the Dirtbag Browns, all right? I mean, I know I am. I'm fired up to watch. Hopefully they don't disappoint and lay an egg like they did last time. It's in Heinz Field this time, so that'll be the advantage. It'll actually be Devin Hodges' first, if he starts, it'll be his first full start at Heinz Field. I hope it's a rocking stadium, rocking atmosphere, and we get the job done. All right, thank you guys for watching. Sorry I rambled for so long. I just had a lot to say. Real quick, I guess if you want any other team stats, Pittsburgh failed to capitalize in the red zone. I'm sorry, I should mention that. They had no red zone touchdowns. Their one touchdown was a big play. They had a field goal or two in the red zone. They had a pick in the red zone too. Our red zone offense has not been great this year, but our offense as a whole is not either. We actually led in time of possession for once, which is rare with this team, but that's because we ran the ball so much, which it worked. I do hope we need to be a bit more aggressive if we plan on winning games, if we're being honest. But, it's an important win. We're in the wild card spot. Basically, it means if we win out, we keep that spot. So it ain't gonna be easy, but I really think this Pittsburgh team can make the playoffs. Not saying they'll go far. Let's be honest here, guys. We probably will lose in the first round of the playoffs, but making the playoffs would be making a statement that this team doesn't give up. Making the playoffs with the amount of injuries we had. Ben gone for the year, Tuitt gone for the year, Juju and Connor's been in and out all year. Samuels was hurt for like months. Snell was hurt for like months. Juju's been hurt a couple times. Johnson, everyone's been banged up. This team's really, it's been an off year injury-wise. So hopefully, learning experience come out next season firing, but let's just keep going now. This defense has been amazing, and they continue to do so. They need to contain Baker Mayfield. That's the key to next week's game, because just a week ago, or two, I guess, when we played the Browns, Mayfield escaped the pocket and made plays. Pretty much all the big plays that the Browns had were because Mayfield was allowed to leave the pocket, even though our pass rush got there a lot, but we couldn't get the sacks because he'd roll out and we couldn't contain him. And if you give him 10 years to throw the ball, someone's going to get open. The Browns have good receivers. And our guys locked them up for, the first 4 or 5 seconds of the route. But if your quarterback can keep the ball for 15 seconds, he's going to get Odell or Jarvis is going to get open. So we really have to shut that down. Heck, we did a better job of containing Lamar than we did Baker, and that's a problem. So hopefully the defense can step out, and hopefully Hodges can improve this offense a bit. All right, guys, thank you for watching. This is KMA Preston, signing out. See you later.